Hi, it's Stephen here from Sound of a Nation Wave, and this is day 24 of the October daily draw. So as we close out the week and approach the weekend, let's see what message we get. And I'll be taking first card from the Ghost Tarot, followed by an Oracle card from the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. So let's choose our first card and get the reading underway. And we'll go there. And this is the Temperance card. The Temperance card. This is about blending things together, getting things in the right proportion to, in the getting the balance of our lives right, different aspects of our lives working together, blending together, different aspects of ourselves working and blending together towards a common aim. It's about moderation. It's about staying away from excess of one end to the other. It's getting that nice middle ground quite often, and getting, just that sweet spot, not too much, not too little. And that takes effort, that takes will, that takes self-control, that takes experience and practice on how to find the right balance in life, the right sort of to the degree of which certain things take up space in our lives, and the time and the time that we spend focusing on certain things. We don't want to be focused too much on one thing at the expense of another. We want everything working together. All our faculties, our physicality, our emotions, our mental state, our spirituality, everything about ourselves and everything that we are, that's about us as an individual, and all those aspects of our lives, leisure, work, all these different things blending together, practical things, theoretical things. It's all these different aspects and elements of our lives working together towards bringing more harmony together, integrating everything together. Although that always, to me, seems like, culminates in the world card at the end. But this is where we start learning how to do that. This is where we learn how to do it by practice, through experience. That's what I believe this temperance card is more or less saying to us today, is to find that sweet balance in our lives of different aspects of our lives and within ourselves, and to have a sort of avoid excess. It's saying avoid being excessive in one thing or another. It doesn't really matter what it is. Excess can lead us to imbalance, and it can make us lopsided as individuals, and it can hamper the effectiveness of our energy and what we're trying to do. So that's what it's about. It's about getting that blend right. As she's mixing the different, from one jug to the other, she's getting the blend together as she's there. And that's what temperance card is. And also temperance, the word temperance, it is about moderation, but it's about control and keeping things, moderating our nature to stop it getting too wild and excessive. And the other aspect of temperance also comes from the verb to temper. When you temper metal, when you forge metal, when you forge a sword out of metal, you heat it to a very high temperature, but then, to shape it, but then you immediately cool it to because you don't want to be to because while it's hot, it will become it's malleable. You can shape it and form it. That's why you do that, but you don't want it to stay like that. That's the thing. We don't want to. Yes, you have to heat it, and maybe arguably excessively, but only for a time for a purpose. You can't stay in that state because it would be impractical. It wouldn't stay in the shape. Wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be usable. So then you put it into the cold water, and that brings the temperature down, and then and that sort of brings it down to the hard metal, and then you heat it again, and then you bring it back to the water, and you do that so a few times, and that's called tempering. Tempering the steel, tempering the blade, and eventually, and the more you do that, the more the tougher the blade of the sword becomes, and that's where you get it. And so, and quite often, the reason sometimes we have these testing times as well in life is we can have these testing times because it's to reshape us, to reform us, but it can't leave us in that state. That's why, even challenging times pass because it has to. Otherwise, we will be of no use. And then we immediately, those times cool down again. But then we become hardened a little, toughened through the experience, through the the hard knocks of life. We get accustomed to it. We get toughened and resilient the more that we go through this. And that's why we have good times, bad times, but because that's what shapes us, that's what forms us, but also strengthens us when we come out the other side of it. So there's that aspect of it too, that, often if you're going through a tough time, it's because the universe wants you malleable and shapeable. You need to change a bit. You need to reform. But once you've done that, then that tough time should not continue. Otherwise, you will be overcome. You will be of no use. And ideally, the universe will bring you circumstances to lessen that toughness so that you can reform and take shape and be toughened and made more resilient through the experience. So there's that aspect of the Temperance card too. So whereas we might experience excess on one end or the other momentarily, ideally for most of the time we need to find a balance within the two. So that's why that's where it comes in. Once we've got that toughness, that resilience, we keep that so that when we focus on that middle ground, that middle way, as it were, of bringing that harmony into the situation and into ourselves. Okay, so let's see which oracle card we get to go with that. We have the Witch card, and to me, the Witch card, which is basically one that recognizes her own power and can harness all the elements of nature and of herself, and by her intent and her will, can create what she wants to create. To me, that's what the witch embodies. And so can we when we follow the way of temperance. When, apart from the shaping events of our lives, we are to live in temperance, in moderation, in bringing balance and everything together. And that's something that the witch can do in her practice. Grab hold, allow the dwelling fire within belly, awaken all that is, a mere glimpse a delicate pull of the very roots living in the alchemy itself. A delicate pull, not an excessive, too strong a pull. You do things in the right way with, don't overdo things. Do things in with precision, with harmony, with balance, and you can create what you want to create in your life and be who you want to be. But be careful of those excesses. Okay, so that is today's message. I'll be back tomorrow with day 25. Until then, thank you for listening. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.